I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried, will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Hey everyone, I know you tuned in to listen to the amazing Kwan Patton, but I'm going to interview her first for her first show on her podcast. So let me tell you a little bit, very little bit about me. My name is Kristin Walker. I created a mental health podcast network years ago, back when people said, podcasting, what is that? That's never going to go anywhere. Well, look what happened. So that's a little bit about me. On to talking about Kwan. Kwan, I'm so excited that we're doing this.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to do this as well, Kristin. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you and hoping to learn so much more from you. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited about that. You have such a great, I've told you this privately, so I'm saying this out to your listeners. You have such great energy about you. I can feel it through the airwaves. I can see it when I've watched some of the things that you've put on Facebook. So this is absolutely a pleasure for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Me as well.
Well, tell our listeners, I want to hear what's the name of your podcast and a little bit about your background and why the heck did you want to do this?
So, the name of my podcast is called Manifesting Your Wings of Worth. And I know that it sounds, what? Right? But it's broad. And the reason why I wanted it to be broad is because it speaks to so many things that I have to say, that I feel I have so many, obviously from school and, book learnings, but also so many spiritual downloads of messages that I feel it's super necessary for me to reach so many people.
I love that. I love that. And I know there are many shows I want you to be a guest on our network of podcasts, but I'm so excited that you're doing your own show too. And that you'll get to know people on this network as well. And you'll have your own guests. And sometimes it might just be you talking. You never know.
Yes. I'm so excited. And this is bittersweet for me because, sometimes in life you have to do, you have to go all the way around. You do have to do 180, to get to exactly where you want. I knew that mental health is something that I wanted to do at a very young age, actually. I want to say at, my late teens, I definitely wanted to do this, but I was a little discouraged and went a different route for a while. But it's a testament to your purpose and your fulfillment and what God has ordained for you. So
True.
you always end up where you're supposed to be. And here I am.
I know. And it's, you started a journey of doing, well, I don't know actually where you started, but I've seen you put some things on YouTube. You've got
Mhm.
some Facebook things you've recorded where you're maybe in your car. I'm not sure. And
Mhm.
some of the background looked like that. And you've got a nice, healthy following. So what made you turn your eye towards you want to do this also as a podcast?
So I started off ironically in billing.
Oh, for healthcare?
Mhm. For healthcare.
Hey, I know all about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started off in billing and I did revenue cycle. And I managed a team of like 23. And I would provide therapy in my office to my staff. And I had a few of my staff say to me, you really should start a podcast. And this was back in like 2014.
Mm,
You really should start a podcast, Kwan. You have a presence, and there's so many things that you say that it empowers people. Like, you make us feel like you can leave this office and do whatever it is that you plan to do. And that was always in the back of my mind. It was so far reached, so I couldn't see that far in front of me. And so my ideology was, I'll just utilize the front lights to my car. And as far as I can see, that is as far as I'll take it.
mm. I love that. Ooh, you're very eloquent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a different medium. I mean, there's YouTube and there's doing things with a camera, and then there's just audio. And you and I've had that conversation about, how that is, especially with people in trauma,
Right.
needing to just hear someone's voice and not be distracted by anything else.
Right.
I've told you some of the shows we've done on emotional abuse, psychological abuse specifically. I've had people say, I have listened to some of these same shows again and again. Sometimes because they're ruminating about the abuse and they can't stop thinking about it. And so they'll turn on a show and they will use that to help them go to sleep.
Right.
And at first I thought, well, I'm making people go to sleep. And then I realized what they were talking about.
Right. But it's so true. It's so true. And it's to speak on that, I think a big part of my fear was doing the YouTube channel, which I do have, and I will continue to do the YouTube channel because, ironically, I've gotten a lot of inboxes of friends and people who are on my social media who watch it and say how it has helped them, and people that I would have never thought was watching it. And so I always look at that as confirmation that you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can only YouTube, yes, anyone can watch it, but there's something, it is limited by country and it's harder to find things. If you're, it really goes by where you are, what country you're in, as to what's going to get fed to you. And the great thing about podcasting is that isn't there. You can pick up, I'm shocked all the time at how many countries are actually listening, to the shows on the network, all over the place, in areas where I think, do they even have viable internet? How are they even listening to this? Oh,
Right. Yeah, but that's phenomenal. And that's exactly, that's my purpose, like that's what I want to do. And I know we spoke offline a little bit about the difference between video and audio. And I think that the podcasting, I will be more in depth, I think, because the focus will be on the messages, like the messages that I want to give. I'll be able to pay more attention to that. When you're on video, it's just distracting. It can be very distracting, if you're using your hands, if if you're thinking about specific things, but maybe you made a facial expression and it just deters you from what you wanted to say. I think this is going to be so great for me because I will be able to convey exactly what I want to say, and I'll be able to get across to so many different people.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't like to be distracted. We're such a visual, and in the United States especially, it's such a Western society thing to be all about appearance. And so to have that stripped away, it's just what's in your head. It's like music. It's in your ear, and that's all it is. There's nothing distracting you. You don't have to say, oh, you don't assign if I say something maybe that someone doesn't like or they don't relate to, or something I say triggers them, or a guest says something that triggers them. They don't immediately assign anger towards me because my face isn't there to get angry about and go, oh, well, look at her nose, or look at this, or look at that. It just strips away a lot of stuff to just be this more pure experience, in my opinion.
It really does. No, I absolutely agree. And I think, I actually, go for long walks. And when I walk, I actually listen to podcasts, and they have been life-changing for me. So I hope to sit on the opposite end of that and know that someone is walking and someone is, just self-reflecting and maybe going through different patterns and cycles of life where they're in a space where they're growing and developing. And I'm giving some type of education and some type of message that resonates to what they need.
Right, exactly. Now, one thing I picked up on when you were first talking about your journey into the mental health world, there was a disappointment or something that happened there. Tell us a little bit about that. And I apologize for throwing that one out at you, but sometimes that, those things that come up and, like you said, propel you to be doing what your purpose is. Those are very interesting for people to hear, where you made a pivot.
Right. So when I was in undergrad, I started off in school doing social work. And I was told by an authority figure that that there's not really money in that. And that's not something that you should pursue.
Mm.
And, it was someone that, I looked up to, and it deterred me. It made me sad, to be honest, because it was something that I really wanted to do. And so I went on and got my bachelor's in human services, but then I did a master's in healthcare administration. And I stayed in healthcare, but it wasn't fulfilling to me at all. It wasn't, I didn't get anything from it. I think it's super important for people to understand that I understand money, money, we need money. we need money to pay bills. We need money to live. We need money to save, to retire. We need all of those things. But if you don't love what you do, then you are working every single day of your life.
Yeah.
And when I moved into this field, and I have to be honest, if I stayed where I was, I was already 20 something years in. And so like moving into now another master's into this field I was green, right? And so obviously at the beginning, you have to start all over, but it's worth it because of the purpose.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you are such a social worker at heart. I can't imagine you. Yeah. And I have friends, that own big for example, mental health billing companies, and that is their purpose. They love it. They love helping a mental health organization stay afloat and make sure that
Right.
they get their insurance billing in and done properly and all these things. And that is, fantastic. But if you're a social worker at heart, you're going to feel like you're just doing drudge work.
Right. And I think what is important to me is this podcast. I'm so excited about this journey, and I can just obviously my LLC is called Vision of Life Coaching and Counseling. With that, I can vision so much more. I think empowering, I think motivational speaking, I think reaching people, particularly so many of us who are broken and who, come from broken families and dysfunction, and now you're an adult and you're moving into the world and you're trying to find love and you don't even know what love means.
Right.
And so you find yourself in these tumultuous situations, not understanding that every single thing that we need we already have within us.
I know, and it's such a journey to get there.
It's such a journey.
I mean, I'm still on that journey, and I had a friend who was in his 30s when he asked me this, and I was probably in my mid 40s, and somehow I was some Yoda to him, and I looked at him like, "Why are you asking me for advice? I don't know what I'm doing." But he sat down and he said, "Man, I'm just like, when do you know that you're going to be okay? Like, when do you know?" And he's, looking at me like I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's just going to get this from me, this wisdom. And I said, "When you're dead."
Right.
That's what we're here for, right?
But Kristin, there's so much validity to that because it never stops, right? And
Yeah.
even in my sessions with clients, I explain to them that life is continuous growth.
Yeah.
When you go through this pivotal moment where you're in this dark place, you're in a space of transition, right? You transition, you go through it. You've learned a lesson, you've moved on, you're rewarded by the universe, by God, you're rewarded by all of the things that you endured. And then some people think, I won.
Yeah. I've reached the destination. I have crossed the final finish line.
Exactly.
No, I was just saying this to someone the other day. I said, I was on the phone with 2 therapists because pretty much all of my friends are therapists.
Right.
That's required to be my friend. But it's so funny
Exactly.
because I said, we're pushing a rock up a hill like Sisyphus. We just are pushing it up and then it goes back down and we push it up, we push it up, we push it up. Finally, we get that rock on the top of that hill and it goes down the other way. And you got to do a happy dance. Even give yourself even just 2 minutes of a happy dance, because guess what? The next rock is waiting for you.
Oh, Kristin, which takes me to, I just want to piggyback off of that because I don't want to give too much because I have so much to say on my shows, right? But a big part of what you said resonates so much because what I teach is that so often we spend time focusing on all the bills, all this, the
Yes.
this, the that. Life is so difficult, but we have the parties and we have the family get-togethers and we have babies are being born and weddings are being performed and, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we just skeet through the happy. We just
Right.
slide right through the happy. And no one practices mindfulness, like sit in the good.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to balance your life when you can relish on this feels really good today.
Right. I used to be one of those people that I think as I had a horrifically traumatized childhood, so hence the work I do today. But I used to think that thing where, oh, don't get too happy because then the rug's going to get pulled out.
Right.
So just don't allow yourself to be too happy. And I have all this proof of, well, I was really happy. I was ecstatic. And then look what happened. Well, and then I finally went, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
really? Of course that happens. That's life. We
Right.
spend so much time blaming ourselves, and people use that word manifest. I love that you're using it, and I love how you're going to have your own descriptors for it from the downloads that you get in your life experience, because that word can be so misused.
Oh, yes.
Positive thinking. Oh, if bad things happen to you, it's because you're not doing something right. You're not manifesting enough. You're not blah, blah, blah. It's like there's a piece that people forget in there that has to do with why we're here.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is part of our journey.
Yeah.
It's part of the journey.
I used to think too, I had this thing where I thought, well, I keep running into the same kind of person, so obviously I'm not learning the lesson. And it wasn't, there's a grain of truth to that, of course. I just needed to pivot how I viewed my perception of that. Oh, it isn't, oh, bad, bad, bad on you for having this same kind of person come in, when really I'm the one that's there all the time because I'm in it, right?
Right.
But it was that I looked at it so negatively, instead of, I have this wonderful therapist that said, well, of course, the same kind of people come in. You're just checking your work, see how far you've progressed.
Right.
Like, there's no need to put a negative connotation on it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And sometimes too, I find that when you look back to your experiences and, oh God, I could definitely do that. You see the same people and the same faces, different names.
Yeah.
Same scenarios, and there's a lot of finger pointing, like this person is this person is that. But when you really begin to heal, and I think that's another word that's just kind of thrown around.
Yes.
Like everyone wants, oh, you have to heal. You have to heal. I don't think people understand what it means to heal. Healing is lonely. Healing
yes, it
is lonely. Healing is lonely. Healing is misunderstood. Healing takes on so many different levels. But a big part of healing is relearning who you are. And when you get to that moment where you have reached a space of center, right?
Yeah.
You begin to align what is meant for you. And you begin to align what vibrates on the level you currently are on.
So true. And I like that you're putting the emphasis on the word healing instead of healed.
Right. Because it's always healing.
Yeah. That's the amazing thing. I had someone that I, like you said before, that I really admired and still admire. But they maybe 20 years older than I am. And we were doing a writing course, and we were writing about painful experiences. And I was reading something I had written, and I started crying, and she grabbed my hand and she said, you know that you will have healed that when you don't cry about it anymore. And it really struck me, and I felt ashamed in that moment, which I don't think had anything to do with her. That was just my own shame. But I thought about that again and again. And I've thought, that is simply not a true statement, at least for me.
No.
I'm going to cry about stuff that happened as I get older and have different viewpoints about it because I'm older and wiser.
Right. Exactly. And so when you heal through different dimensions and different chapters of your life. And that's just really what it boils down to. I think, yes, I've definitely had clients where, initially anxiety and some traumatic experiences, and even talking about a loved one who's passed that, that wasn't planned, and it was devastating, and reaching towards a year or something in therapy and finding that the tears were less and that they were able to talk about it more.
Yes.
And they were able to process it more. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're healed from it.
Yeah, I always like to think of it like it's become a scar. It's if you're working on healing those open wounds to where you have a shiny scar, that to me is a more realistic journey than, it just doesn't exist anymore because I've healed it. No, you want that scar. You want to be proud to have that, because then, people who come to you and they poke you and they know exactly where your wounds are. If you've done a lot of your own personal work and you're covered in scars, it's a lot harder for those kinds of people to dig in there and really, catch you off guard.
It is. It is. It puts me into the mind of when I was a young adult, I I wasn't as fascinated to speak with like the elder generation, As I began to get older, I understood the wisdom that came with that because of my own experiences and turmoils and trials and, all of the things that I had to go through, and how that brought on so much wisdom, so much you're able to turn around and give to the younger generation. I take that very seriously now. I enjoy talking to people who can give me something that I don't have. When you stop being teachable, it's not a good thing.
Oh yeah, that's when we're delving into the roots of narcissism, and that's not a
Right.
good place to go.
Right.
No,
Which is like a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other topic. Exactly. We have many shows about that. Yes. But it's interesting. I today even I was speaking to another podcaster on the network, and I was telling her a couple of stories, and I went, "Oh my gosh." I said it out loud, which made her laugh. And she said, "This is why I work with you, because you just say whatever." But I laughed and I said, "Have I become, oh my gosh, I think I just crossed a threshold into an older person who shares their stories because there's so many of them, and now I get what my grandma was like. Let me tell you about the time,
It's so funny because I had no time when my grandmother would talk about these stories. Oh my goodness. And now sometimes I lay down and I actually can remember some of the stories, and I just smile.
Yeah.
And you almost want to beat yourself up for not appreciating it then. But I guess that's just part of life,
It is. It is. That's just the way it is. I hung out always with older people that I'm nearing their age, from now. But I was always with my grandma, and I listened to everything until I got to be a teenager.
Right.
Before that, I was like, I didn't want to be around any kids my own age. No, I wanted to hang out with these two ladies that lived next door to us, and they were 65 and 70. And I listened to everything they had to say. And then I got to be a teenager and I just didn't have time for them. And they missed me. And I spent years feeling so guilty that I just dropped them like a hot potato because I had a boyfriend and I had this, the stuff that happens when you're a teenager. And now I'm able to go, well, that's just the way it is. That's what we
Yeah,
do as a kid. You can't, you've got to get out there and create those stories for yourself
you
that somebody's
do.
not going to listen to later.
That's so true. That's so true.
But as a therapist, you have a captive audience because you can tell some of those stories, which makes it nice, I think, to be a therapist.
Definitely. Definitely. But yeah, this is everything that, there's so many levels and levels and levels of mental health, and I want to explore every piece that I can. I'm still learning myself. I'm constantly reading and constantly, I've said to some of my clients, I actually have been in therapy. I think it's important for a therapist to go to therapy.
Of
I
course.
think it's important to understand the vulnerability that it brings. It's a very vulnerable and humble experience, being on that opposite end. But I think also a client is as good in progress as their therapist who is resourceful.
Yeah. Ooh, that is good. That just gave me chills. That is so true.
And that is so important to know and understand.
Yeah. And it's important to really let that resonate with you listeners that, have gone through a therapeutic process with someone. I always say, it is a cashmere blanket that you give to yourself. It is, thank goodness, the stigma is not too existent all over the place. It is in pockets, and depending on where you are in society, race can play a part, sex, gender, all of those things. But it's not like it was about, oh, you have a counselor. Ooh, it's not like that anymore. Thank goodness.
Right. Oh boy. Definitely had clients who, I think a big part of that though, Kristin, is their fear of being emotionally vulnerable and open.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes when we deal with traumatic experiences, everyone has their own way of dealing with it. And many people just decide to close their heart and close, their emotions. And if I don't feel, I can't hurt.
Ooh,
Right.
that needs to be a bumper sticker. Yeah.
It definitely does.
If I
Definitely.
don't feel, I can't hurt. Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure somebody said that somewhere and you
Mhm.
just said it, but that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it resonates for so many people, but it's the fear of opening up and that Pandora's box that they don't want to, explore. Some people are scared to go back. I am big on cultivating a relationship with the younger version of yourself. Even in my own healing, there were so many times where I would say to myself, would you hug yourself when you were dealing with that? What would you say to yourself? And it creates an emotional space as an adult, thinking about the younger version of yourself and what she endured and what she went through. Many people don't understand how powerful that is in your healing.
Oh, absolutely. I went through a period in my mid 40s where I bought a Snoopy, a stuffed animal Snoopy because
Mhm.
that was my childhood, creature that I could not go any. I mean, the Snoopy I had was disgusting because it went everywhere, and I bought one as an adult, and it was a therapist like you who recommended I do that because I could not tolerate the idea of even looking at myself at the age that I carried that Snoopy around.
Right. Right. Because of the memories.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, just shame and all. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
so excited for this show, the things that you're going to delve into. I really am.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I have so much to say. And I thank you so much. Oh, Kristin, for giving me this platform. You have no idea.
And my pleasure. Tell again, just so everybody knows, what's the name of your show and where can people find more about you?
So, the name of my show is Manifesting Your Wings of Worth. And the name of my website is Vision of Life Coaching Counseling. It's one word. And I am also on Facebook. And my Facebook is also Vision of Life Coaching and Counseling. And I'm also on Instagram. It's vision_of_life_CC_LLC.
And you can just type in KWAN
Correct.
PATTON. That's how I found you. And I went,
Yes.
whoa.
Yes. And
This
I also,
is someone who's comfortable speaking.
I am very comfortable. Yes, yes. And also I have a YouTube channel, which I've downloaded, I don't know, maybe 16 videos, and go check that out. I've talked about so many different topics, from intuition versus trauma. One of them is get out of your comfort zone. I address the LGBTQIA community. Watch that Karma, part 1 and 2, lessons learned. You can't control it. Stop getting in your feelings. There's so much content there. Please check that out.
Yeah, I can't think of one of those that I would not want to listen to. So
thank you.
You have a fan in me, and I'm so glad that you wanted to do this. So listeners, please tune in. Her show is a part of Mental Health News Radio Network. You can find her podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Audible. I mean, anywhere you can hear a podcast, her show will be there. So I'm very excited to help you put that out into the world.
Oh, thank you, Kristin. I'm so excited on this journey with you.
All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in. Find Kwan wherever you can. Listen to her shows, and she'll have a next one coming up for you next time.
Thank you.
But will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristin Sananta Walker, and thank you for listening.
And I can ride the low, low, lows with me. I can ride the low, low, lows with me. Till my vision clears up perfectly. I can ride the low, low, lows with me.
Good boy.